I'd always wanted to find abs. I would diet, be super restrictive, lose weight, and get skinny. And then I would ultimately rebound. And I came to the conclusion I would just never get abs. I thought it wasn't possible for me to see the definition that I wanted. But that's when I stopped making excuses and started to embrace tracking macros. If you've ever tried to get your abs to show, and I think you'll agree that the struggle is real. It took consistency past the point where I wanted to quit. In this video, I'm going to show you 3 tips you can implement to see your abs. But first things first, you might need a mindset shift. You've got to get over the mindset that you can't track, that it's too tedious and boring and overwhelming and simply impossible to do every day. I get the whole mindset against it. It's a big change, and it is annoying to track everything you eat. But it's data you need to achieve something you've never achieved before. Plain and simple. Think about it this way. If you've never made a cookie recipe and you aren't a baker, you wouldn't just randomly throw things in a bowl hoping cookies came out of the mess, would you? You wouldn't even eyeball portions of ingredients on the list. Nope, you'd weigh and measure everything if you wanted to guarantee the cookies turned out. Same thing goes for creating a recipe for aesthetic results. As annoying as it is, tracking helps us have the data we need to get the results we want. So embrace the suck of tracking so you don't have to suffer through the frustration of never achieving your goal. Now, what are 3 tips to help you lose that stubborn belly fat, and how can you implement these things into a full day of eating? With clients, I like to cycle ratios, and ultimately the ratios and calories they use will vary based on their metabolic rates, their activity level, their needs, and even their previous dieting histories. But no matter what, I implement these 3 tips to help them overcome that hurdle, reveal those abs, and get rid of that stubborn belly fat. Tip number 1, go high protein. If you want to reveal abs that you've never seen before, you've got to embrace going high protein. High protein helps us build and retain lean muscle while in a deficit. Because it preserves lean muscle mass, which is metabolically costly to maintain, you'll tend to burn more calories even at rest, and your metabolic rate will stay higher. Protein also keeps us feeling fuller for longer, which is key when we're eating in a deficit. And protein has a higher thermic effect than carbs or fat. And unlike carbs or fat, protein's thermic effect is much more constant regardless of your current body composition. And the final reason you'll want to use macro ratios that really favor protein is simply because your calories have to come from somewhere. You need enough calories to not start catabolizing your muscle tissue, and protein helps prevent this. But because of the thermic effect of protein, you are also keeping your daily energy expenditure higher while getting to eat more. So basically, since your calories need to come from somewhere, protein is a safe somewhere to have them come from to promote better fat loss results so you tap into those fat stores. Tip number 2, embrace the deficit, but realize your mind will try and trick you. Your body simply doesn't like change. And you're going to feel hungry, not only due to the changing source of energy with the macro ratio change, but also because you do need to be in a deficit to really cause your body to tap into those fat stores. Now, you want to be conscious to increase this deficit slowly and not try to out-exercise your diet further, or you'll create metabolic adaptations that will work against you. But because your body adjusts the fuel it's given, over time, you will have to adjust your calories. Do this slowly and even find that balance of occasionally lowering your calorie intake from food, but also at times by making sure you're moving more in general, as we do tend to fidget and move less as our energy intake goes down. Our body adapts and becomes more efficient, and that can mean moving less to conserve energy. But however we do it, we have to embrace that deficit and know that hunger will be a part of it, especially as our body adapts to a new energy intake and even macro breakdown. And the leaner you get and closer you tread towards that essential body fat line, not to mention the longer you've been in a deficit, the more your body and mind will start to work against you. Your body wants to survive, and you're taking it to a leanness level it's never been at. You're going to get more cravings for things and be tempted to overeat, even when you don't truly need as much as you're craving. I think it's key to recognize this and have strategies in place to help you handle it. Whether it's knowing it may be time to back off the deficit and do a diet break, include the occasional cheat, drink extra water and push through, you need to recognize that there will be points you'll be hungry and have cravings to start. Focus on finding that balance in your ratios as well, including very nutrient-dense foods that give you a lot of volume, but also macro-friendly variations of treats or dishes you crave so you don't add to those cravings. Tip number 3, precision is key. As much as I'm a huge advocate of finding something that you can be consistent with, of striking that balance, if you want to reveal abs and have never been that lean, you need to be precise in your macro breakdowns and your calories. This is not the time to focus on the lifestyle balance, but work towards your goal instead, knowing that using macros, you can transition into maintaining your results in a healthy and sustainable way. But if you have the goal of revealing your abs, you need to be precise and consistent past the point you want to quit. You need to weigh and measure everything. You want that tedious perfection and precision to make sure you have 100% accurate data. You want to be able to know you're doing everything right, not only to achieve results, but to stay mentally focused on those things when you feel like results aren't building. Because there will be a dead zone where you even feel like things look worse because you've lost off of areas you don't care about, or you don't see the areas changing that you want to change. So often we don't see the results we want because we give up before the results have had time to snowball. That's why you need to track everything to know you're being precise for results to build. So what does a full day of eating for fat loss look like? I'm going to share with you the exact macro breakdown I think works best. This is a more extreme ratio and not that much fun to do, but it's what you need to do if you want to take your results to the next level. It's extreme and not fun, but what's often needed to get rid of that belly fat that just won't let go. And that ratio is 50% protein, 30% carbs, and 20% fat. Depending on the client, I may switch the carbs and fat, and I will cycle this every 1 to 2 weeks with other ratios to maintain hormonal balance and even prevent more than necessary mental drain. But this ratio is almost always in that 6-pack cycle for clients no matter what, at some point in their journey. Now I want to show you what a meal plan for that may look like. For calories, you need to consider your activity level, previous dieting history, genetics, age, and so much else. Too often we say a calorie intake is too low or too high, judging what someone else is using, without realizing that some of us are metabolically more or less efficient, or may have even created more metabolic adaptations from previous dieting practices. So stop judgment and figure out what you need. Often for cutting, I will do 10 to 12 times goal body weight for a client. If they don't have a specific goal weight, we might start with their current weight even. I'll show a full day of eating for 50, 30, 20 at 1,400 calories, which is 12 times my weight. For me, perfection in hitting those macros is no lower than 49% protein with 2 to 3% deviation from that ratio. I shoot for 175 grams of protein, 105 grams of carbs, and 31 grams of fat. Let's first talk about breakfast. While I love fasting, I'll often break my fast prior to my workout when on this ratio to make sure I have that little boost in energy and get some protein in prior to my training for fuel. I love having a pre-workout or breakfast coffee protein shake. The extra boost of caffeine never hurts, and the whey is quickly and easily digested to fuel muscle repair and growth for my lifting session. I'll combine water with whey and shake to make sure it's fully combined. I'll add ice, then 2 shots of espresso or coffee from the Keurig with even a little sugar-free flavoring. Then during my workouts when I'm cutting, I'll often also include BCAAs in my water. I'll be 100% honest here. I love the taste of my personal ones, and it encourages me to drink more water, which is key with high protein and part of why I do it. But I find it is also valuable to improve my recovery because I'm more aggressive with my calorie deficit. And while some feel that BCAAs aren't beneficial if eating high protein already, when you're in a deficit instead of a surplus, often you aren't getting too much of anything. So bumping up your amino acid content to only aid in recovery and repair is never a bad thing. Muscle is metabolically costly and helps us avoid metabolic adaptations, so I want to use every tool I can to maintain and build it. Post-workout, I may have a shake, but often because I train late in the morning or midday, I'll simply eat lunch right after. I try to include more carbs post-workout with higher protein and lower fat in that meal. This allows me to replenish my glycogen stores post-workout and aid in better recovery. And the lower fat helps allow for faster digestion and absorption of nutrients. I love having fish or seafood whenever possible, so do something like halibut with rice and a veggie like broccoli or Brussels sprouts. I try to include a diversity of protein, carb, and veggie options for a better micronutrient diversity. I love mapping in a meal of 8 ounces of halibut, 5 ounces of white rice, and about 200 grams of broccoli. Because when I'm feeling super lazy, I can easily get the same plate at a local fish spot and actually sit out looking at the ocean. Not a bad midday break. For dinner, I love a slightly fattier protein source since I generally fast and skip breakfast. I may use a steak or ground beef even. Sometimes making a quesadilla using a low-carb tortilla, or even a dish in the air fryer with veggies and potatoes. I usually do about a 6 to 10 ounce portion of protein. In this case, I did a lean cut of steak. In the air fryer, I may also do sweet potatoes and a veggie like asparagus. I even like pre-cooking and prepping these things at times to just then reheat in the air fryer when I'm short on time. And for me, dessert is a non-negotiable. Often I will plan on the thing I want most first. Because I love dessert, this is often dessert that I plan in first. Although I now have a few go-tos, I like to cycle and pick one based on even other meals I really want that day. While a staple has always been my Greek yogurt with granola, I've fallen in love with the MegaFit protein snacks. Today, because I wanted a bigger portion of rice at lunch and potatoes at dinner, I went with 2 protein balls for dessert. Just a nice little way to balance at the end of the day. This puts my totals for the day at 1,405 calories, 172 grams of protein, 105 grams of carbs, and 30 grams of fat, which is 51% protein, 30% carbs, and 19% fat. The key thing to remember is we need to work in things we enjoy while focusing on those nutrient-dense, high-volume foods that keep us feeling full and satisfied. There's something to be said for meals that have more bites when really trying to cut that body fat. But just remember, if you're going to push your body to achieve a level of leanness you've never achieved before, there's going to be some sacrifice. You need that precision in tracking your macros while focusing on protein to get rid of that stubborn belly fat for those of us who tend to carry our weight around our middles. If you liked the video, make sure to like it, comment below if you have any questions, and subscribe. We're posting new videos each week.